you know, we we've been talking a lot of MLR the last couple weeks, y'all. A lot of MLR, and not in positive news. Obviously, it's been surrounded around Toronto shutting down, and then of course, just this past week, Rugby New York shutting down as well. So what do you do whenever you went from 13 teams down to 11 teams and you got to figure it out? Well, you find a way to get convenient. And it looks like there is the story that's going around. It was put initially on Cuatro Casa, a law firm, talking about an MLR team going down to Mexico. All right. This would down to Mexico, trying to bring our second Latin American team to the MLR. And honestly, I don't know exactly what to think about it. So let's kind of look at what they had to offer, what they were talking about when they were bringing a team over. So in the news report, Cuatro Casa dropped a report. And let me get it up here for you guys, because you gotta see this, you gotta experience it. But I'm gonna read it off for the listeners as well. For Cuatro Casa, all right. So they put out an announcement saying Rugby Ventures Mexico signs agreement with INDE, under which Nuevo Leon will have professional rugby. And so you guys, and I'll talk a little bit more. So let's read this out. Cuatro Casa, which is a law firm in Mexico, advised Rugby Ventures Mexico on signing a contract with the Nuevo Leon Institute for Physical Education and Sports to enable its rugby team to play at the new facilities IND is building. The transaction will enable the state of Nuevo Leon to have a professional rugby team. The Monterrey team will be number 13, which actually now would be 12, because clearly they didn't get this in before Rugby New York went to pieces, in the Major League Rugby. The team, which does not have an official name yet, is expected to play in the season starting in February 2025. The contract signed also enables Rugby Ventures Mexico to obtain financial support thanks to the facilities and the construction improvements to the new stadium. The Cuatro Casas legal team handling this transaction was made up of lawyers Santiago Ferrer, Ivana Munez, Jeronimo Riku, from our Mexico City offices. All right. So this is what we have going on now. A lot of people are going to ask, yo, where is Cuatro Casas? Where is Nuevo Leon? So apparently it is in the northern part of Mexico, near the border of it looks like Texas and New Mexico. And, again, from a positioning standpoint, I think it makes all the sense in the world to be able to do that. And I think it provides a lot of, at least a diversity, and it kind of speaks to what Cameron was just saying in being able to develop and provide a name for these other countries in the Americas to be able to get a spotlight. Like we just seen it with Argentina doing it for Miami Sharks. I know it's technically Miami Sharks, but it's the Argentinians of Miami Sharks being able to play in a much closer competition of professional rugby. So you get a chance to be able to see this. Now, for me, I don't know so much about if I'm 100% sold on what it is, because it's not going to be the first time that we've had a very remote, let's say, investment group actually like make an announcement that they're going to play a game and then nothing really comes from it. And again, this was also really convenient. So one example that I like using in this was what happened with Kanaloa, Hawaii back in 2020. So if you guys don't know, Kanaloa, Hawaii was a group that was interested in putting an MLR team in Hawaii because they have great Polynesian community. They have a rugby community. Obviously, it's a very high sporting one, especially when it comes to football. It was being put together by these two guys. They were two former All Blacks in Joe Rococo and Jerome Kanu. Joe up top, Jerome at the bottom. So they were really looking in 2020 to be able to put in a team, and we were announced to be able to go into improvement for 2021. All right. So, you kind of have this like little component and piece here that makes it feel like, okay, we'll get something. And if you guys think that Mexico is an oddity, Hawaii is way out there. Like, if you want to talk about pushing prices to get out there, Hawaii is what, 6 hours time zone difference from New York. So like, you're talking it's at least a 5-hour trip, at least from Texas to 5-hour trip from Texas to Hawaii. So this little Mexico one is nothing. But this one was supposed to be an ambitious one. But what seemed to have happened was this happened during the COVID. There wasn't the plan that they felt like MLR had for, tell me if you've heard this, financial stability and a plan to be able to, in this case, come out of COVID. And so ultimately, the group didn't feel like they would be economically viable enough to be able to hold a professional team in the MLR and be able to put one in Hawaii at that time, and ultimately canned the whole idea in 2022. Another example of this that we have of a team a group making an announcement, but nothing really coming of it, was MLR Tennessee. I think it was a group out of Nashville, if you're not from around the area, that wanted to put an MLR team. Which actually, to be honest with you, Nashville is actually probably a premium spot, the East Coast version of Las Vegas, if you may. They had talked about it in February 2022. Since then, nothing's really come of it. There hasn't been any news, any announcement. Players, again, Tennessee is an area that has support, but what happens? So, for my thoughts when it comes to this, like, this Mexico thing is something that I'm just not confident in what the follow through is, especially the convenience of when it was released. I look forward to hearing more. It doesn't seem like any MLR owners or any MLR teams or the MLR office has said anything about this in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know. I would love to see a Mexico team because they do have players. It's with Rand, they do have a base out of Mexico City, so there is an positioning where you could have a great stream of eyes to take it in. Something very similar to what Telemundo did for the NFL in providing an eyes. And if you guys know how much Latin America really supports for Latin America in respective things, we talk about music. A lot of people don't know that Latin American music is one of the biggest genres of music, and they support. Because when they represent hard. Very similar to country music. Like, they represent hard. So there's ideals for it. Let's go into the comments on this. Shout out to my guy Blurtish. Thank you for the support. Keith, my boy. Abel Rosa. It's saying, Mexico sucks at rugby. Bad, but I want them in. I'm not gonna lie. Mexico has definitely struggled. They definitely have their struggles, but I know that they've been working on the program. Shout out to one of our friends of the show, Jen Salomon, who has been an advent progressor, player, and mentor for the Rugby Mexico women's team. You can actually check out her interview on our channel. But yeah, they haven't been able to perform. But again, they don't get normal funding. They're not 24/7, training nationally. It takes a lot of effort. And obviously, it's very centralized to literally one or two regions for Rugby Mexico to be able to actually, show out what they do to be able to improve. So having a professional team would be a nice step up. That's if they, pulled from Mexico. We've known a lot of times that most teams don't just pull from their local base. You're probably going to get some New Zealanders, random South African, a Canadian, and some Irish people that will fall into it and then fill in the gaps with some local Mexican players. But I think at the same time, I think it would be a good look. I think the biggest issue would then be just the visa stuff. Obviously, Canada has some ease with it, but Canada's still pretty tough Mexico has their own stipulations, and I wonder what the healthcare situation would be in terms of the insurance. I know Mexico actually has really good medical facilities, all things considering, and it's at the border. So, this is an area where a lot of people do their work, but I don't know. Like it's got upside. I kind of hope it's true, but I'm not going to be betting the horses that it's going to come into fruition. Sometimes it sounds good and people are talking about it, but then when it comes down to like putting rubber to the road, people get freaked out like they did with the investors in New York, and all of a sudden what was a hopeful endeavor ends up being a complete pipe dream, and then we're back to square one. So let me know what else you guys' thoughts are. I appreciate the conversations. Thank you guys so far. And of course, we're going to continue on this. I ain't convinced.